And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Damien Kross, writer from the Pacific Northwest, who for the past decade has been in contact with ETs ranging from subtle interactions like electronic communications and electromagnetic distortions to multiple aircrafts in the sky. Damien, thanks for joining us and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Jeff.
When and where did this contact begin?
Initially, or the primary experience was at my work. I work across Murray Island at the Duma Space Center, and it was 2016 into 2017. It was during the winter time, and I was working an overnight shift, and during one of my breaks, I wanted to go outside to kind of wake up. And at the facility, there's an interior courtyard where you can see the sky. It's nice. It's closed off, so you're protected from the elements except for the sky area. And I was just looking at the sky. It was a nice clear night for a winter in Washington State. And I saw what looked like a satellite going across the sky. And I had my flashlight with me, and kind of like on a lark, I just decided to shine a light near it, not at it, but near it. And when I did that, it completely stopped and it changed color mildly, and then it started to zigzag and pull away. And when that happened, I was shocked, and I could feel like a shocked, not like pain shock, but like just an alarm, like, oh my gosh, what just happened, type of sensation. And then again, the object flew away, and I was just hooked from that point on. I didn't know what was going on, but I went inside and I wanted to figure out more about that experience.
How high in the air would you think it was?
Several thousand feet. Again, I thought it was a satellite, because satellites move a very specific way compared to aircraft. And again, it moved faster than a plane, but slower than a shooting star. And it was definitely out in the atmosphere. I couldn't give you a better estimate than that.
Do you think that it was an accident that it saw your flashlight, like it was a coincidence that it happened to be flying by, or it was there for you?
That I don't know, because it's kind of like the chicken or the egg syndrome for me. Because a few days prior, I was looking online for like paranormal activity, blogs or stuff online, just because I've been interested in the paranormal for a long time. And I came across a YouTube clip about extraterrestrials. It was actually one by Dr. Stephen Greer. And in it, he talked about, like, if you see something in the sky, it may not be an actual satellite or something, flash a light near it. And I'd never heard anything from him before. I just thought that was hokey but funny. So now fast forward a couple of days to where I'm back at work. That's why I thought it was going to be kind of like a laugh. Let me go, shine at a light across the sky. And again, lo and behold, it just stopped. So the fact that I kind of had a push to look up extraterrestrial stuff or paranormal stuff, maybe it was meant for me to see. But in all honesty, I think it was just my intention, because I did intone towards it like a hello when I shined. And I think that shocked feeling was kind of like from both of us that, contact just happened.
Did you initially think it was an ET, or did you also okay, you thought
not at all. I was literally just trying to wake up outside, and I just remembered that YouTube clip, and I had my flashlight. And again, it was a perfect example. It was just a slow moving one I thought was a satellite, and I shined at it, intoned at it, and then it literally stopped, changed from a whitish to a yellowish color, zigzagged, and then continued on.
After that action that it performed, did you at that point think it was an ET, or did you also doubt it and think, well, maybe it's humans in some kind of craft playing games?
Initially, I doubted it being ET and more viewed it as, is it an effect of being up too late? Because if you do night shifts for an extended period of time, you do see things from time to time, especially if you're tired. You might have a short micro sleep and then see something that isn't there. So initially, it was startling enough to me that I knew something had happened, but I didn't know if it was mental, like fatigue, or if it was something genuine. So from that point on, I kind of immersed myself more in looking online and other research for like ET phenomena. And I also did medical tests and I did tests at work to see uh, if the phenomenon would reoccur or if something else was going on. And that was a very long-winded process. Over the course of a year, I did a lot of tests just to figure out what was going on because I started to see more than just objects in the sky. I started seeing objects on the island, which is across from where I work. Um, that again, I was like, is that just somebody on the island signaling me back? Because the island's a mile, almost a mile and a quarter away. Um, so the likeliness that they would see my light is kind of small, but to be able to respond to it as well, I just wanted to figure it out. So I started signaling the island, and then I would get signals back from the island. And then I tried to create a type of communication between, is it someone on the island? Can I test if it's a person just, messing with me back in the middle of the night? Uh, and more, it started to turn into something other. Because technology that I know of couldn't explain it. Um, it would be a lot of waste of time and effort to keep up with someone like me in the middle of the night, continually for a year. Um, and eventually, all my tests in my mind made me believe it's extraterrestrials.
Were you ever afraid?
No, and I kind of paused there a little bit. I wasn't afraid of them whenever they appeared, uh, just from my personal experience of being a special police officer in the past, and it's in the middle of the night, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. Uh, I was more worried about if people show up or if wild animals were on the property because I was going outside in the back of the property to be more in the air, but I never felt um, afraid of them. In all honesty, I actually felt good when they would appear.
After the initial experience, did they start showing up every day at work or every couple days?
I would say they showed up every day that I worked, um, primarily because I was really testing. I was putting in a lot of effort and a lot of both conscious work and physical work being there. Whenever I had like a break from work, because work always had to come first, because again, I didn't want to lose my job uh, while I was trying to figure out what was going on. So during my breaks, I would meditate. I would try and intone my intention, and I would do all these tests, like flashlight tests, just to see how people would or whatever was interacting. And they showed up every single time that I did that in the beginning. As time went on, um, and I got more comfortable, even in how I interact with them, they showed up only periodically. But still, if I put my mind to it, uh, they'll show up almost every single time. Um, and now that I work more from home, uh, I go out basically every night, and I'd say on average 4 times a week, if they'll show up. And if I really tried, I could probably do it every day. And it's not, I should kind of clarify, it's not like a big presentation. I'm not seeing craft in the sky every single time that, I meditate or try and make contact. Sometimes it's orbs. Sometimes it's electrical distortions that happen right around the time I'm meditating. Sometimes I'll get my dog will actually get stimulated and she'll come and get me and take me outside. And literally we'll go outside and there'll be a craft outside. Um, Sometimes I'll get a feeling like go outside and excuse me, then I'll go outside and there'll be an orb just waiting there. And then it just takes off after I've acknowledged it. So it's it's not always grandiose, but it's consistent if you try.
When you do see it as an actual craft, what does it look like?
The few that I've seen craft wise, um, predominantly are spherical. And there's like a distortion around the outside of it. You can see light almost curve around it. Um, the clearest one I ever saw, I'm not too inventive with my name. I called it Mrs. T because it had a feminine feel to it, and I can explain more on that in a bit. But it had the front of it was curved almost like a T in shape, but the rest of it was spherical. So again, it looked like the contours in the front made the shape of a T, but the back was round. And that was bright yellow, and it moved very slow and purposefully. And that particular craft and entity in it, the reason again I call it Mrs. T is because of the shape, but also it had a feminine feel. And some of these beings come back; they're repeat entities or beings, and you can feel them. Uh, and that just adds a nice layer to it.
What do you think they're up to? Are they like space tourists or something?
I don't know. I think they're interested personally in expanding humanity, maybe like our connection. Um, but also, I'm kind of persistent when I like a dog with a bone when I looking into something, and I constantly was making contact, and I think it's a two-way street. The fact that I'm constantly trying to communicate, they pay more attention as well. Because if I just jump to a conclusion, or if I said, no, this is not ET, it's man-made or what have you, then there's no effort or thought to it. And why would they come back if I've already made my judgment on them?
It sounds like that you used to be a police officer.
Uh, Very limited. A special police officer. That's basically you have the authority of a police officer, but on a small area. I used to work at the National Cathedral. And so I was there for several years, yeah, back in DC.
Well, does any of your training as a police officer assist you in your investigations now?
Yes. Thankfully, when I was trained back there, they train you to look at all angles and all sides. So you don't just jump to the conclusion. Because also in like special police work, when um, you're dealing with someone who's in crisis, they'll say stuff. They're truthful or not, but it's how they feel. So you have to sit back, critically analyze everything they're saying, uh, separate them from the problem, and then investigate the problem. Same thing I did here. When I saw that first light, it could have been anything. So, like, I went home, I tested my medical health, and I ended up over that course of that year. I mean, I got EKGs, tested for epilepsy, all these other little things just to make sure mentally and physically I was fit and I was clear across the board. Um, I tested um, light procedures again to make sure that no one was signaling me across from the island because they were bored. I checked the camera systems. I wanted to make sure no one was hacking into it. I wanted to make sure there was no updates because sometimes these beings appear on the camera, like there'll be a flash, and then I'll know to go outside. So I wanted to check um, all of those systems out before I made any conclusion. And I checked military bases. I checked I bought apps to make sure there were no errant boats going by or planes or satellites. So I used all of those in my arsenal basically when I was trying to figure out initially what I was dealing with. And ultimately, everything came back towards secret technology that I wouldn't know anything about, meaning privatized or military. So if they were messing with me or testing something out, um, I wouldn't know. Um, or something spiritual or extraterrestrial. And spiritually, everyone's got their own belief system. I did what I did for my belief system to kind of weed it out, and it didn't feel spiritual. Again, it felt foreign. Um, and what clinched it was during one of my tests, I would shine lights across the island. And again, basic flashlights have red, green, and white. So it's very easy for someone else with another basic flashlight to flash the same colors. So I would get construction paper and put it over of different colors. And I was like, the only way they were going to get these colors is if they had the same, uh, uh, construction paper. Well, lo and behold, they did the same exact colors back. So now I'm like, okay, I wanted to double check the cameras again to make sure no one was seeing me off of the camera, and then again continuing to fool with me. And the cameras were fine. So eventually, I weeded out, am I doing anything predictive? And I got to the point where I was just going to try a mental question. So I was looking at the island and I thought to myself, what color am I going to shine? And I didn't, click it on the flashlight, but I thought red. And the red light shined on the island before I even picked up the flashlight. So at that point, I was like, okay, what's going on? And that was the first step into me knowing, okay, this is extremely high technology. I'm going insane, or it's or it's something else. And again, I tested out medically fine. But from that point on, most of my tests were mental. I would think of questions. They would shine in different colors. I tried to do the classic Star Trek, 1 for yes and 3 for no for flashing lights. Um, and they didn't really respond to that, but they would mimic the number of LEDs that I would use on my flashlight. Because the LED flashlight that I had could make shapes. 4 would be a square, 3 for a triangle, 2, for a rectangle. And I would set the number and I would say, what shape am I thinking of? And then they would pop up on the island, 2 dots above each other or a triangle dot above each other, uh, before I even did it. And the other interesting thing is, at least for me, is across the island, again, it's a mile away. So for these objects to synchronize and shine together, they're hundreds of feet away from one another for me to see it in a big picture. Because if it was 2 people with 2 little flashlights, the glare from the light would block them out. Um, so that's how I started to test more and more, and I honed in. Okay, this is mental telepathy of some kind, uh, and it's down to 2 things now. To me, it was ET or military. But again, why would military waste all of that money and energy on a lowly little night desk clerk who's taking his breaks? Um, and after that, though, I started asking more personal questions, not like testing questions, like what's your name? Uh, and I didn't get any response that way. So in a decade, I've never gotten like my name is or specific questions. I'll get feelings from them that make me make up my own mind, or what sounds like an internal consciousness speaking to you, but that's very rare. But it's not like, hi, my name is Bill. It's nothing along those lines. They were more warnings if I got a like an internal clear message.
Now, you were doing your research. Do you think it's possible that they were doing research on you?
100%. It's funny, like even if I went to like on the military aspect, if they were or beta testing some form of technology, that's possible. I'm a perfect candidate only in that by myself, surrounded by water, in between military bases. The facility is closed off. Um, so in the middle of the night, I'm the perfect kind of guinea pig. Uh, but if it pertains to like ET, if they were, just testing me, I think it's more testing my ability, as if I could communicate with them. And I do believe that uh, I think everyone has the ability to make contact, but just like anything else in life, you have your own skill set. So some people are more tactile, some people are better at projecting, some people are better at emotional control. And all of those things hinder contact that I found out over the years.
Now, did it move from this distance sightings to face contact?
Yes. I kind of hesitated there a little bit because they're never really clear as day. Um, it's kind of like looking through a hologram or looking through something that's phased. Um, Several times they've been in the house that I've seen like a phased shadow of them, but it's not like the shadows you see in the corner of your eyes. Uh, it's got depth to it and it's standing out, but you can still see through it. Um, and a few of the ones that I visually saw inside the house had the classic gray alien type look, like facial structure. Um, but you see them, you kind of see through them, and then they like disappear really quickly. Um, One that I did see clearly and stayed for a while. I was at my house, uh, and it was looking inside from outside. And I had a feeling at first, like there's something outside. And I looked over, and there was this very large gray um, being that was just kind of looking through the window. And it was staring at me for a little bit, and I could feel it, but I could still see through it. It's hard to describe because it's like you physically see something, like I'm seeing you on the screen, but you also see through it. So your brain is trying to wrap around what am I physically seeing, and it doesn't quite mesh up. But it was there, and it turns its head, and then of course, I take a picture, and then it slowly moves and disappears on that one. And in several cases, I've had feelings to take a picture inside the house or in a direction of the facility or out in my yard, and I don't see anything at all. But I take a picture, and then on the camera, there's a shape of an entity or a being that was in the direction that I had the inkling to take a picture of.
Do you feel like they are benevolent?
Yes, the 100%. The ones that, um, and I hate to say it this way, the ones that I'm experiencing are, um, I've never had an overt negative experience. They've always been loving and nice, and you feel it. It's like your whole body feels almost energized after seeing them or feeling them around. And it's been positive. It's been a positive change even in my life for behavior wise. Um, and they're not curbing my behavior, but like for an example, uh, I still do love martial arts, but I used to take martial arts and teach martial arts. And then again, I was in the special police force. So I was around violence. And, I like action movies and horror films. I've always liked those. But again, that's a violent dynamic. And whenever I was watching violent movies, after they started to appear, they would interrupt my movies on TV. I would get like a feeling like in the back of your mind that someone's there. And then the TV would stop, the streaming would get messed up. And, I would look to make sure, is there an update? Because that happens on, smart TVs, that an update will turn everything off, or is the Wi-Fi running? Everything is running fine, but the TV would stop, or I would get kicked out of the program. And then I would get this feeling, go outside. And then they were there. Like a little orb would be there, and then it would take off. Like, it's like, don't watch this. Um, and sometimes even if I get overly excited, which is fine. Like I could just really, really like a movie, and I'm getting into it, and the TV will stop again, and then you get that feeling. Okay, it's them, and it's followed up with flashing on the TV, lights flashing, or objects or lights outside, and that actually has curbed my enthusiasm for martial arts. I still love it. It's always a part of my life, but I don't do it. I don't practice it anymore. And I felt uh, how do I put it? Seeing violence in general hurts me more, if that makes sense. Meaning like I feel the violence more than what I used to. There's less apathy, even if it's just it's a movie. But it's like I'm more sensitive to even people acting like in pain or in suffering that way. So that's been since the contacts.
Have they ever downloaded information into your brain or given you a message for humanity?
Not that I know of. The best way I could describe that is The only thing that I've ever felt from that is, or from them, is like feelings of love or a feeling of not to be violent. And that's very high on their s- scale. Like whenever I interact with them, if I'm frustrated, angry, if I bring any anger or emotion into the contact, they'll disappear. Sometimes they won't show up. And I get that feeling of you need to calm down, or that like humanity needs to calm down uh, a little bit if you want to go more of like a grandiose sensation to it. Um, but I just think they emote lovingness and they want us to be more loving. Uh, and that's the only word I physically heard outside of my head and in at the same time, and it was just full of this emotional feeling, was the word love. And I'm standing outside, I'm meditating outside, and all of a sudden there's just this immense feeling of love in the word love. And then I was just filled with joy, in all honesty. And when I came inside, even my wife was like, you look like you're glowing. And I was like, it's the weirdest feeling. It was just an overwhelming feeling of love. Um, and I think that's it. I think they want us to, in my mind, I would think they would want us to take better care of the earth, better care of each other, and just, again, not to be so afraid and fearful, because that hinders so much.
A significant number of my guests who see plasma orbs and or ships also kind of have the same experience you had. And what I mean by that is they feel love and they actually will verbally tell the orbs or the beings, I love you, thank you, and share gratitude. Do you do that as well?
I share gratitude. I thank them when they show up. I thank them when they leave for their visit. Um, and that was actually part of the protocols that I had learned, like the CE5 protocols, because when I was looking into, again, more how to communicate with ETs, because I've never done it before, um, that popped up, the intoning of where you are, of gratitude, and if it's safe. Um, and for contact, usually for me, for it to work, I have to be in a calm, appreciative state to begin with. And that helps when you're trying to think of positive things. um, and they respond. Sometimes, like when my wife comes out with me and she'll observe them, if we're both in a good mood, it's amplified, and they'll show up and they'll flash at us. Um, in a couple of instances, I would know my wife would want to see what I was seeing, and I would intone, if you could please wait, I can get my wife, and they'll stop and wait for my wife to come out, and then when she comes out, it flashes, and then it will move off. So, I mean, it doesn't wait forever, but thankfully, I have that thought when my wife is like in the kitchen and I'm outside meditating. Um, but that's happened several times. And if we're in a loving mood, if we're just happy, if I'm having a good time with my dog, um, they'll flash on the TV, and it's a very specific flash. That's not like I said, it's not the streaming. It's not a reboot of the smart TV or anything along that lines. They have a very specific way they signal that I know it's them, and they'll do that if the house is in a loving mood. Um, like one prime example again with that one is my wife used to have to drive a lot from work to get home, and everyone in the house loves when my wife gets home. She's the shining light of the house. So the dog's happy, the birds are chirping, I'm happy, and I won't even be watching the TV. As soon as my wife gets home, it starts to flash because I think it picks up the vibration and happiness when my wife gets home, and they pick up on that, and it's a beautiful thing to share in my mind.
When this first started happening and you told your wife about it, did she not believe you until she saw it for her own eyes?
Yes and no. I have a very loving and understanding wife, and that was one of the biggest moments for me, because as the phrase goes, you can't pick your family, but you can pick your wife, or you can pick your spouse. So she could choose to be my wife if my family is stuck with me. So I was worried that way a little bit, but I did everything I could for about a year before I told her, just to make sure that when I did open up to her, I had a clear message. I had what I'd been doing. Yes, I could still be a little bit off, but this is why I don't think I am. And when I opened up to her, she was skeptical, but she was loving, which was great. But she then was like, well, if it happens again, just let me know. And I was very lucky and grateful to these beings because like the next day or 2 days later, um, they showed up in force behind my house. Like I was telling her some of the experiences, like they would show up at work, craft after craft after craft. Like sometimes they would go 10 to 15 minutes straight and you would see hundreds of them in the sky. And I even checked, this was before Starlink or any of those things came out. Cause like I said, I wanted to check, make sure there's no satellites. Cause the last thing I want to do is say like, oh, I'm seeing hundreds of things and it's Starlink. Um, so this was before Starlink came out. This is the 2007, close to 2018 now. Um, and but when I spoke to my wife um, at home, they appeared, and this was the first time they ever appeared in force at my house. Like it was one after the other, after the other, after the other. And my wife was looking up, and she just gave me this cross-eyed little look, like, what is that? I was like, you tell me. This is what I've been experiencing and what I was telling you about. And what makes that particular incident so special, besides it affirming, what I've been saying to my wife, they moved in a particular way that eliminates them from other aircraft. Because usually when you see aircraft in the sky, they go from horizon to horizon, or at least in whatever full plane of view you have. These can appear in the center of the sky, and then they go halfway across the sky, and then they disappear. They don't cut across the entire horizon. So technically, I should have been able to see them go across the whole curve of the Earth from my viewing plane, but they don't. They just appear, go in a straight line sometimes, and then they just disappear. And I was lucky she saw that as well, because that would, when I say added credibility, at least it was more like what I'd been seeing at work. But she was definitely very loving of it, and she opened up, and I appreciate her every day for that.
They would wake you up in the middle of the night sometimes.
Yes. Um, Sometimes there's a this is the why I kind of paused a little bit when I said negative experiences. When I have a negative experience, it's usually they're warning me of something, or I have a physical pain that wakes me up, but it's in reference to a warning. So I would be sleeping in this one particular instance. I was sleeping and I got a pain in my left leg. And I was like, how, what the heck's going on? And I sat up, and on the screen we have upstairs, so this is a different TV, not the one I normally see him on. It started to flash. So a red light was going off, and uh, I got this overwhelming feeling of warning, like get up. And in that particular instance, I got up and I was just kind of feeling around in the house, but outside my window, there was someone in my yard. So I went into defense mode, and I ran downstairs in my underwear and was about to go outside with my dog. And by the time I got downstairs, whoever was in my yard had hopped over the fence, and all you could see was their flashlight running off. And so I'll get like a warning, kind of like a flash that way. Or I'll be at work and I'll get that flashing pain in my leg once in a while. And then I'll see on camera someone who's not supposed to be on property is wandering around in the back. Um, and there's only one being that shows up that consistently does that, even without being a warning. It's kind of like a little of a pain for me to pay attention, like, ow, okay. And then I look over, and they're on the island or they're on the camera. And that's the one that I call red, um, because it shows up as a bright red spot. I'm not too inventive there. But red will move all over the island. It won't just stay in one spot. And that's the only one consistently, for some reason, that when he shows up, and again, it has a masculine feel to it. When he shows up, I get like a little bit of a sharp pain, and I don't know if it's like, hey, I'm here, so pay attention, or what have you. But that's the only one. But yeah, they do wake me up periodically.
So are you saying that when you feel pain, that means danger?
In some cases, yes. Again, like with red on the island, it's been hit or miss. Once in a while, I'll get pain, and then he'll really flash a red light. And when he flashes constantly, he doesn't hold a bright red orb, then something's off. And in those cases, we've had people on property that weren't supposed to be there. Uh, a couple of times, I got signaled, and I went back inside, and then a pack of coyotes ran across the property. Um, which is important for me. I'm saying for me to note is because I don't go outside armed at all, and a pack of coyotes in the middle of nowhere is not a good thing because they will not show up if I'm armed or carrying any weaponry at any kind. Uh, Even in the beginning, we came to a weird truce because I was like, I can't go outside in the middle of the night without at least like a Mac light, like a big flashlight, something that I could have in my hand. Um, but that took a couple of times meditating before they agreed to that. And it sounds weird to say it before they agreed to that because they never really said, yes, it's okay. But they would signal with flashes on the island. But my pocket knife, no. Uh, Taser, anything else that I would have for like security purposes, couldn't have any of that on. Nothing aggressive. Um, so again, once in a while when I get that pain, sorry to go back to I got off on a tangent there. But when I do get pain, once in a while it's warning. Um, but for the most part, I don't get pain with them. It's usually it's more like a feeling. Sometimes it's like a feeling like you're being watched, but not in a negative way. It's just like we're here. And then other times it's like with like a magnet. The best way to describe it is like if you had two magnets and you push them together, you'll feel the force pushing off of each other. Sometimes I'll feel what feels like a magnetic push, like something was just pushing against me, and I know they're in my peripheral somewhere. And then they're very specific. It's like a 2 to 19 minute window for when they show up. And I don't know why. I've never figured out why that 2 minutes to 19 minutes is like their window where they'll show up. But it's either instant or within a 2 minute to 19 minute window when I meditate. After 19 minutes, they may not show up at all, or it may be a couple hours, and then I get alerted by them instead of me trying to make contact in their direction.
What type of meditation are you doing and for how long?
Originally, just to calm myself down, I did my martial arts meditation, which is more of a closing off of the exterior, meaning you control your breath like box breathing. So 4 seconds in, hold it for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, then hold it for 4 seconds, just to calm the nervous system and to kind of focus and get in control of your emotions. Well, that's what I did again in the very beginning. When I started hearing and looking at the CE5 meditation context, they again talk about centering yourself, calming yourself down, getting control of your emotions, but then also um, being open and loving. And I wasn't used to that at all. Martial arts was don't feel pain and close off. This was open yourself up. So you're meditating, and instead of just focusing on you, I'm focusing on the outside. I'm opening myself up, not to be a receiver or anything like that, but just I'm letting my intentions outward instead of blocking everything off from coming in. And the breathing is pretty much the same. It's you calm your breath. Um, and what was different is I calmed my breath, then I had an intention. So it's like I'm going to send my thoughts out to the stars. I'm going to send my thoughts out towards the island. Um, I would give an internal monologue of like, I'm here in peace. I don't have anything that will hurt you. If it's safe for you to show up and safe for all parties involved, please do so. If not, I understand. And I kind of repeat that. And I repeat a visual image. I'll meditate an image of where I am and what I look like at the time. And that I just project that out. And I just sit there breathing calmly. Um, and again, like I said, if they're not already out there, within 2 to 19 minutes, they show up. Um, and that's been consistent.
Is this still happening even today?
Yes. And it happens more at home because, again, I don't work as much at my job at night shift as much anymore because I work at home. But they'll interrupt my movies from time to time if it's too gory or too violent. I'll get flashing on the TV. They'll appear in the night sky, um, and some of them will stay around even when military planes show up. Uh, and that was something that started to happen both at work and at home a lot. Um, I don't get any military planes normally during the day that fly over the house, but right around the time I decide to meditate, or if I get a signal to go outside, within 2 to 5 minutes, they're right there. You'll have a military plane, and it's a big difference between maybe one plane will fly overhead during the course of a day, and I know this because I work at home, and 15 that show up in the course of a half hour. They're like, and they fly the same pattern. They've shined a light at me a couple of times, which has been interesting. So we know of each other is the nicest way to put it, because it's right over my house. So these objects will fly over my house, and the military fly right down the same path. Uh, um, Once in a while, they'll flash the two lower lights at me, and then I shoot my little laser beam up in the sky, letting them know, not at them because that's illegal, but I'll let them know, yeah, I see you too. Uh, but they'll show up at home. Um, Once in a while, the military planes will do what's known as like search patterns, and it's military, and then they do have some apps that will let you know if it is a military plane. They'll do a triangle path. One will go down this way, one will go in another way, and they'll try and triangulate right around where one of the objects appeared over my house. And in many cases, the orbs will shrink and disappear when the military planes show up, and then they'll come back, and that's why another plane comes in reference to it. Um, there is one that I call Sentinel, and because it's huge. To me, it's the biggest one that I've ever seen as an orb, prospectively, and it can change color from like white to yellow to bluish color. And when it shows up, it doesn't care. For whatever reason, it moves, and I've seen planes move away from it. So it just flies, it goes its own little path very, very slowly. And little orbs will actually fly towards the one that I call Sentinel, and then they disappear, but Sentinel still stays there. So I have no clue what Sentinel is, and I just call it because, like I said, it's this massive presence. And it clears the military planes out of the way sometimes, and then smaller orbs will appear. So I don't know if it's like just clearing the pathway, and then the smaller ones feel safer. Um, Sentinel, you also feel it looking at you, if that makes sense. Um, like there have been a couple of times, one time at work, I was looking up, and the same feeling, that same masculine feeling from Sentinel shows up right overhead, and it just stopped. And I could feel it not probing me, but it just felt like someone was looking at you. And that was the very first time I actually felt Sentinel, but it just, you could feel it was looking and doing something. Whatever it was a little intimidating, but it wasn't scary. It just felt like your dad looking at you, like, what are you doing? Um, and again, when Sentinel shows up, no matter where it is, um, planes will move out of the way, or it's not affected at all. It just flies, it does its own little path.
Where do you see all this going?
In the beginning, I thought it was just more communication to open up to humanity, maybe to, I was persistent. So since they have that loving energy or force, they were just communicating the same way you would communicate with a friend. Uh, and then again, to some extent, maybe they were communicating with me because I am a writer, and I am willing to do things like go and speak about them in a polite manner. So that might be why they showed up also as much as they had with me. Um, but again, I am talking about the positive because I haven't had negative experiences, and that I hope goes a long way. And maybe that's what they want as well. They want more contactees or I think people call them visitors now. They want us to be more accepting of them, and speak the truth to the experience that they had. I haven't. Thankfully, I've never had overtly like negative experience where like the classic are CE4s, or that's what they call the abduction ones. I've never had that. I had missing time, but again, I don't know what happened during that time because it was it was missing. So I can't say that I had any abductions or anything along those lines. Um, but the ones that I've been dealing with, I think they want, we're here, be positive, be good to one another, and I'm not gonna say recruit, but they want people to talk about it. Um, because that's the only way change is going to happen in general. I don't think, you know, passive disclosure is going to work in the Senate or anything along those lines. I don't think they're going to, just choose to be benevolent and be like, oh yeah, this has been going on for a long time. I think that, I think it has to be leaked, or I think information needs to be irrefutable, or the ETs are going to have to show up to do the job. And I think they're starting by having more contact with people.
Let's take a look at some of your pictures.
Okay. This was a bluish orb that appeared over my house, and I just had a feeling, uh, instead of just to observe it, to take a picture of it. I don't always take a picture of the orbs that I see because um, I'll intone, is it okay for me to take a picture? And sometimes they'll disappear because they don't want to be on camera, and then other times they'll just wait around and let me take one. Um, in this particular case, I had the feeling to take a picture. And when I took a picture, it was a bluish orb. But when I zoomed in, there's this either looks like a craft or something kind of like peering out. It looks, because the sky was black. Um, so I guess the best thing would be maybe this is a portal type picture because it looks definitely like there's a different atmosphere behind it, and that something is looking through. Um, and in this particular case, it stayed there for a while before it like petered out. And then it was gone from sight. This was another object that appeared over my backyard, um, and I was looking up at the sky. I was doing my meditation, and a silverish blue orb again was seen, and it let me take a picture of it. And shortly after I took this picture, it tilted and took off really quickly. And I call it my sky shark because that's the best way I could describe it. But there was no negative feeling from it. It was literally I just had this feeling of like, we're here, you can take a picture. Um, because again, sometimes if I ask to take a picture or if I have my camera out, they'll disappear, and they'll literally, for example, I'll see an orb, and if I forget to ask or forget to intone, can I take a picture? I'll have my camera up, and then they'll shrink and completely disappear. And then I kind of feel bad, and I put my camera away, and then they whoop, reappear in the sky. And those are always interesting interactions. But again, I can't get pictures of those because they let you know, no, I don't want to be taken a picture of. But in this particular case, they were completely fine with it. This is from the island. This is some of the ways that the light manifest on the island that I'm looking at.
And this is basically an orb floating over the water.
Oh yes, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, what will happen is there will be an orb either on the side of the island or it will move towards me. In this particular case, there were several orbs on the side of the island, um, and then this one started to move a little bit forwards. And when I got a picture of it, it had more of like kind of like a bird shape as it was moving. But for the remainder of the time, or for the majority of the time, it was more of an orb that was moving towards me.
And this island is about a mile away.
Yes, it's a little more than a mile. It's Murray Island, which, as a side note, I didn't know that there was actually UFO lore to Murray Island when I moved here. Um, I'm not originally from Washington State, and when I was viewing these lights on the island, I just thought these were random lights or something manifesting that way. And it wasn't until one of my coworkers told me, he's like, "That's Murray Island," and I was like, "Okay." I thought it was Vashon Island. Vashon Island is actually connected to Murray Island. But when I went home that day, I looked up the information, and Murray Island has the Murray Island incident, in reference to craft being seen and some slag falling on some people in a boat, and the first use of the word Men in Black. And that was, again, that was news to me. And thankfully, I had already been, studying this phenomenon on the island for a couple of years before I even figured out that that was actually Murray Island.
If that orb is over a mile away, that light is pretty bright.
Yes. And that's some of the effects that actually happen with the light. You'll see leach all the way across the Puget Sound. Um, and that only happens when these orbs show up. And we get large freighters that drive through the Dumas Bay and the Puget Sound area at night, and they're massive, and they don't leave trails of light across the water, even though they're fully lit. But these beings, when they show up orb-wise, they'll shine a bright light across the entire way. Or in some cases, the light will go out, and then there's still a light trail on the water. Um, so they can light up the mountain pretty well, or the side of the island pretty well. In this one, this was the gray entity that was actually I felt first, and then I could physically see. It's in the window, and the next picture I'll show you is a little more cleaned up. But I wanted to show you that I was actually in the picture for reference. I had felt like I was being watched, and I just felt like someone was nearby. And I looked over, and I could see again, kind of like a shape of an entity that you could see through, but it was there. And my brain was having a hard time uh, grasping the way that it looked, but I could feel it and I could see it move its head. So I started to take some pictures just in case the camera would pick up a better picture of it. And again, this is the first picture for reference, and I can show one where it's a little more zoomed in.
All right. It looks like in this picture you cropped yourself out.
I did. I wanted to. It was easier to. The only thing I did was I changed the brightness in the background just so you could see a little more of what that I was seeing. And um, when I saw it, I saw the neck and then the head shape right in here with the two eyes and the nose and kind of like a little pointy ear. And that was one of the ways that I could see it, but it was kind of it's very hard to describe, um, like seeing through a hologram. You could see the shape. It's like looking at a shadow, but it was a dense gray shadow. This was a intuitive picture. I was technically outside meditating, and I had my camera with me, and I had this feeling to look back inside and to take a picture. And when I turned around to take a picture, there was nothing in the kitchen, because you could see the kitchen from where I was standing. And I took a couple of pictures, and none of the pictures that I took showed up on the camera, except for this picture of a greenish-looking little being. Uh, and again, I felt like I needed to take a picture in that direction. And again, this is what showed up on the camera. And I didn't have any positive or negative feelings. It was just another one of those feelings of like, take a picture here.
It appears to me that what I'm seeing is two eyes and a nose and maybe a mouth.
Yes. And I have another picture which is a little slightly clearer. If you would like, I can put that up.
Sure. Again, I see two eyes, a nose, a mouth, and perhaps even some kind of like an ear or a pointy ear on the side, or is that the part of its head?
Correct. That's what I gathered as well. It looked like more of like a pointyish type ear, but you can see a nose and two eyes. And again, the only thing that I did in this picture was I brightened the background just to give a little more contrast. Um, but the body shape is kind of like oblonged. I didn't see any feet in the picture, but again, the face was more clear, and I would see another face, or I would get another picture of a being with a similar facial structure while I was driving one time, and I can show you that one too.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
In this one in particular, I was driving home from work, and I had had a good contact experience there. But as I was driving, I just had this feeling, you look to your left, and I was looking to my left, and I didn't really see anything um, visually. But then I just felt you take a picture. So I'm driving and I take a quick picture, and in my window, this face appeared, and it's very similar in my mind to the previous picture, because you can see two eyes, you can see a nose shape. The ears aren't there, that I could see from the picture. But again, it was one of those intuitive pictures where I had an overwhelming feeling. Take a picture now, and that appeared.
The detail on this picture is remarkable. I mean, I feel like I can see the eyes really well, the nose, and the mouth.
Yeah, and I felt the same way. And when they do show up or allow you to see something, sometimes it can be that clear. Um, and I've never, well, in one way, I've never seen that being or the other one from inside my house visually. I've had flashes in my head, like I'll get a flash, and I'll see the same facial structure or the same structure of the being, but never seen them physically outside of the pictures that I've taken. This was one again that was taken over my house. It was a more of a boomerang shaped craft. When I visually saw it, again, it looked more like an orb. Um, because again, many of the times when I see these orbs in the sky, they distort the atmosphere around them, and the camera again picked up the orb looking like this. So when I zoomed in, you could see more detail on the camera. But it flew quickly over the house. It allowed me to take a picture of it.
You've written a book about your research and your experiences, right?
Correct.
What is the title of it?
It's called Ad Terram, which is just Latin for to Earth. Um, and it's basically about the process I went through to deal with what I saw. Because again, I wasn't going to just jump to a conclusion that I'm seeing ETs, and I wanted to go through the process of figuring it out. And I decided to write it because I know there's probably plenty of people out there that may have gone through similar things or don't know certain questions to ask, even about themselves. Because a lot of people will not self-reflect first. They'll do something extraneous, or they'll blame something else, or they'll say it's something other than themselves. And I wanted to make sure psychologically I was okay. I wanted to make sure that I got rid of domestic um, issues as well. And I wanted to touch up in that particular book about a lot of the ramifications that happen after contact happens, like domestic interference. And the reason I use domestic interference is because I refer to the ETs as foreign. Um, but if you decide to share about ET experiences, pictures or anything online, or even just in forums, you can get targeted. And that sounds bad. And I say it's domestic because I've never felt like the ETs don't want me to talk about it. The closest thing with ET resistance is when I'm like, "Can I take a picture or film you?" and they disappear. That's the most forceful they've ever done that way. But when I was, trying to share pictures with family or friends, my phone would get blocked. Um, I would have things I couldn't get off of my phone. I'd have pictures that would be taken off of my phone. I've even taken my phone to the store and visited the geniuses that are supposed to fix the. Or I think that's what they're still called, to fix the phone, and they couldn't get the stuff off my phone. So they're like, "Oh, we don't know what's going on with your phone. Wi-Fi signals are disrupted. People, thankfully, it's been passive, meaning like I've had someone break into my house and they took a 500 gigabyte uh, thumb drive of a lot of my film footage. It was the only thing they took, and I'm very sorry about that. But thankfully, I made a backup of it. But the only thing they took was that. But they let me know they were in the house. Uh, I've had trash been gone through, meaning they've gone into my house, taken my recycling. Not Not like raccoons. I know what raccoons do, and they leave like a mess. This was literally someone snuck into my house, took out my trash, and then left with it. Um, they've tried to unscrew my fence several times because I changed locks to make it harder to get into my property. So they someone has tried to unscrew my entire fence door. I've had to put cameras up just because some people would show up, or even then, camera systems would go down. And once in a while, I've had people show up at work, and they don't overtly do something, but they let you know that they're there, and then they go off. Um, and unfortunately, having done security for a long time, there's certain things people can get away with harassing you that you can't make a case of. Uh, Wandering around a property, you can call it in, but by the time the cops show up, the person's gone. If you've got no proof of break-in, it's your word against nothing. So there are a lot of things you can't report on. Or another example, with my Gigabyte being, or my USB port being stolen, what am I going to call? I'm going to call the cops and say someone stole all my UFO stuff. They'd be like, okay, so it's things that you can't, report, but you definitely see. So that was something I touched on a little bit in the book, just that people need to be aware, not that they shouldn't talk about their experiences, but that you might get pushback. You might get pushback from work or family and friends. But the contact is definitely worth the experience.
What is the main takeaway you want the reader to get from your book?
Hope, hope for themselves, and hope for the situation. Because if you take the time to evaluate yourself, evaluate what's going on truthfully, and view it in a critical mind, you can feel better about yourself when you're experiencing the unexplained. Even if no one believes you, you're like, I did it. I did the work. I found out what this is, blah, blah, blah. You can feel confident about yourself that I at least tried to the best of my abilities, and I can take comfort into that. And this is a unique experience that I'm having. Um, but also taking comfort that other people are going through the same thing. Um, and I hope overall, because if you have a critical mind, you can control your emotions. You can communicate not only better with humanity, but with whatever's trying to contact you. And I think that's part of the message, if any, that they wanted me to put out. Um, just that, you can have these experiences, you're not alone, and enjoy them, and move forward in a positive way.
Where can people go to find out more about your book?
They're on sale at Amazon.com or uh, DamienKrossWorks.com, which is my website. And there's a link to all my other books as well, and any like blogs or stuff that I will be talking about. It's brand new. I'm learning how to do technology. So those are the two main places that you can go to find the book, but it's available on Kindle and Amazon. And again, there are links on the website.
If people want to reach out to you and ask you questions, can they do that on your website?
They can. There is a submission area and two different emails. The submission goes to one, and the other email it goes to another email, just so I don't get overloaded in one spot. Um, they can. I can't promise that I will get to all of them, uh, but I do try and respond.
Damien, before we finish up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
Be confident with yourself, love yourself, and be open to communication. Uh, this will help you in everywhere in your life. It will help you with the paranormal. It will help you with family and friends. Uh, be confident in your experience, and again, just hope for the future.
Damien, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.